Dan RadioStyle, hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Faith is probably one of the most important concepts, and Goddard talks about it, chapter, 25, in The Power of Awareness. Faith, perseverance, and assuming the wish fulfilled, or assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, these are really core components. And faith is something that I think a lot of us think we have, but it's very easily shaken or shook, if you will. It's very easy to get us to question our faith. And I think I've got a good little tip here towards the end. And then, of course, Goddard's got some wonderful stuff that really speaks about what it is to have faith. He gives some quotes from the Bible, kind of shows, kind of like he typically does in his very metaphoric fashion, but kind of shows what it also can mean, or another interpretation, if you will, of the words. There's the face value of the words, but then sometimes there's the reading between the lines. So let's see what Goddard has to say about faith. A miracle is the name given by those who have no faith to the works of faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The very reason for the law of assumption is contained in this quotation. If there were not a deep-seated awareness that which you hope for had substance and was possible of attainment, it would be impossible to assume the consciousness of being or having it. It is the fact that creation is finished and everything exists that stirs you to hope. And hope, in turn, implies expectation. And without expectation of success, it would be impossible to use consciously the law of assumption. Evidence is a sign of actuality. Thus, this quotation means that faith is the awareness of the reality of that which you assume. Consequently, it is obvious that the lack of faith means disbelief in the existence of that which you desire. Inasmuch as that which you experience is the faithful reproduction of your state of consciousness, lack of faith will mean perpetual failure in any conscious use of the law of assumption. In all the ages of history, faith has played a major role. It permeates all the great religions of the world. It is woven all through mythology, and yet today, it is almost universally misunderstood. Contrary to popular opinion, the efficacy of faith is not due to the work of any outside agency. It is from first to last an activity of your own consciousness. So right off the bat, he's kind of trying to get people to understand, because one of the perceptions of faith has always been, I've got faith in this outer thing. And one of the things that's key in law of attraction is that everything on the outside comes from within. So placing faith on something outside of yourself is placing faith after the effect, rather than placing faith before the effect. And that's one of the key ingredients. That's one of the key differences. Faith still is faith. It's still belief in something that's unseen. And, in a lot of cases, belief in something that's maybe little understood. But faith, nonetheless, is that belief that what I am doing is being heard, is being listened to, is making a difference. And when we understand that outside comes from within inside, and if you want to change what's going on outside, you change what's happening inside. You change your consciousness. You change your assumptions that you're having inside. You change what you believe is possible or not possible. And from that change, outward things begin to happen. And what faith is knowingness that what I'm doing now is going to create an outcome. Faith is knowing that the outcome is going to happen. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. But faith knows that this will happen. Faith believes in the unseen. Faith believes oftentimes without any sort of physical help. And some of us, that's difficult. Some of us need that physical to believe that things are actually happening. Typically, signs are kind of the best thing you're going to get. Little symbols, little indicators, little coincidences along the way. But oftentimes, until you actually have your final result, which can be a number of steps down the road. We talk about it frequently with Goddard. The second you make up your mind and start heading in a direction, you create a number of steps or stepping stones to that outcome. Faith is knowing that these stepping stones are leading you to where you're going. Faith is knowing that when things pop up in your world that seem strange, I've been doing all this work, I've been doing all this manifestation work, why is this happening? Faith is understanding that this is happening because it's part of your manifestation. It may seem weird. It may seem out of place, but have faith, because from this, something else is coming. This is one of your stepping stones. Understand that faith in knowing is what should hopefully help some of those questions that we ask ourselves along the way. So to continue, the Bible is full of many statements about faith, of the true meaning of which few are aware. Here are some typical examples. Unto us was gospel preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. In this quotation, the us and them make clear that all of us hear the gospel. Gospel means good news. Very obviously, good news for you would be that you had obtained your desire. This is always being preached to you by your infinite self. To hear that which you desire does exist, and you need only to accept it in consciousness, is good news. Not mixing with faith means to deny the reality of that which you desire. Hence, there is no profit or attainment. So for a lot of us, that whole belief that something is possible can be where we get ourselves all shook up. It's hard to have faith that something's going to happen when I don't believe it's possible. So, of course, Goddard also talks about the assumption, and that's why we do the assuming. Maybe you don't believe it currently. You're going to assume that you can do it. You're going to assume there's a way to pull this off. You're going to assume that a path will open up. You're going to assume that one of these stepping stones right now or sometime in the very near future is going to make more sense than the current stepping stone I might be standing on. It's the faith of knowing that we're heading in the direction we want to go. How do I know that? Because I'm steering my ship. Because I'm focusing my thoughts. Because I'm focusing my beliefs. Because I'm focusing my assumptions. That's how I know this is going to happen. And the faith helps with the knowing, but also the practice and the experience of doing this a number of times also helps with the knowing. I've done this a few times. I know it works. I know it's an inevitable outcome if I do X, Y, and Z. So, I do X, Y, and Z, and I have faith of the outcome that will happen. Another quote that he shares with us from Matthew 17:17. "Oh, faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you?" The meaning of faithless has been made clear. Perverse means turn the wrong way. In other words, the consciousness of not being what you want to be. To be faithless, that is, to disbelieve in the reality of that which you assume, is to be perverse. How long shall I be with you means that the fulfillment of your desires is predicated upon your change to the right state of consciousness. It is just as though that which you desire is telling you that it will not be yours until you turn from being faithless and perverse to being righteous, or righteousness. As already stated, righteousness is the consciousness of already being what you want to be. We've got to remember the way to become what we desire, or the way to have what we desire is to become it, is to assume it, is to continue to focus on it and think about it and fantasize about it and daydream about it. I know these are words, these are heated words. Some people, no, you shouldn't daydream. If you're thinking about it intently, if it's bringing about feeling, I don't care if you call it mesmer. If you're doing it, if you're doing mesmer and it's working for you, awesome. But that's essentially what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you call it. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Goddard, of course, continues with one more quote. "By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible." Out of Hebrews. Egypt means darkness, belief in many gods, causes. The king symbolizes the power of outside conditions or circumstances. He is your concept of yourself as already being what you want to be. Enduring as seeing him who is invisible means persisting in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. Thus, this quotation means that by persisting in the assumption that you already are the person you want to be, you rise above all doubt, all fear, and belief in the power of outside conditions or circumstances, and your world is inevitably conforms to your assumption. Now, what's really important in this is he's talking about the outside conditions. How many of us look at the outside conditions as a means of deciding what's going to happen later down the road? Again, outside conditions come from what's inside. So maybe there's some outside conditions that aren't necessarily benefiting you. Well, one, faith, knowing that you're heading in the direction. So whatever it seems that's happening on the outside is probably part of that. Let's assume it is. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt. And let's have faith that things are working the way we intend. When we do that and we stop focusing on this outward thing that we don't like, third party, car, I can't afford it, don't have the job yet, maybe lacking some education, whatever. Me and the boss aren't getting along. The house, I can't find it, someone just bought it. Whatever your little problem is that's gotten in the way. When we focus on the problem, we create more of the problem. We create more of that situation. We make this thing we're focusing on, that's a negative thing usually, by focusing on it, we make it bigger. We make it more pronounced. We make it its own thing. But when we assume it's part of the path, then we open ourselves up to realizing that these things are happening. This too will pass. Something good is coming from this. And I don't focus on it so much. I let it go. I let it pass. I let it go through my life. And I keep moving towards my goal. Like I've talked about before, and someone even shared the name of the small town, but up the 5 freeway, there's this portion of road, I don't know, number of miles, where there's this giant dairy farm. And this area just smells. And, you know, if I want to go to Northern California and I'm going to drive up Interstate 5, I'm going through that. If I want to try to avoid going through that, well, there's kind of a longer route I can take. But ultimately, I just know that's part of the journey. And there's going to be a stinky step. There's going to be a place where I step on it and go, ooh, boy, let's get to the next step as quickly as possible. Let's not stop and go, oh my God, can you imagine the smell? Let's pull over on the side of the road and see if we can figure out why it's horrible. And oh my God, I wish I didn't have to smell all this. Let's pull over and stop and spend more time here. Or keep cruising, because you know what? I'm going to Sacramento, and that's like, I don't know, another 5 hours up the road. Think I'm just going to keep cruising through this town, pinch my nose along the way, and just grin and bear, because I know where I'm heading. I have faith that I'm getting there, because I know that certain steps will get you to the next step. By following our desires, by setting our intentions, by assuming that things are working out, all of these things play enormous differences. And one question a lot of us ask, and I know this, I know a lot of us ask, I've asked this myself, am I crazy for following all this? Am I crazy for doing this? I talk to my friend so-and-so, and they say, you're crazy. I've got an answer to that. But first, let's finish off the last little piece of Goddard, and then I'll tie this all out with a neat little thought I had. The dictionary definitions of faith: the assent of the mind or understanding to the truth, unwavering adherence to principle, are so persistent that they might well have been written by the law of assumption in mind. Faith does not question. Faith knows. So it's a lot of things where people will say, I've got faith. I'm doing this, I've got faith, but for some reason I don't believe it. Well, you don't really have faith. Faith knows. Faith does not question. Faith realizes that I know this works. Now, again, to get back to where I think a lot of us maybe feel like we're crazy. So one of the things a lot of us will ask is, how do I know I'm not crazy for believing this? You know, other people tell me, hey, you know, that's just a bunch of hooey. It's just a bunch of stuff. Or they'll hit you up. Well, how's it going with so-and-so? Why haven't they called you back? Why haven't they texted you? Right? We're talking about the things we're trying to manifest. Now, first question is, why are we talking about what we're trying to manifest? And there's a couple aspects to this. Frankly, people don't need to know what you're trying to manifest. If you're telling them, that's a very ego-type behavior. You're telling people because you want people to know that you've got this newfound power, that you've got this new ability, and you want everybody to know. Problem is, when you let everybody know, they start asking a lot of questions. They start kind of complicating things. They put contrast in your mind sometimes. They maybe ask questions that you weren't currently thinking about. And they might even mean the best. They might have the best intentions, but for some reason they have curiosities, they wonder. So ego wants to talk about what we're doing. Faith wants to show what we're doing. And that's one of the big differences. All these people don't need to know what you're doing on the inside. They don't need to know that you're doing a couple techniques and making things happen in your life. They will know once you've accomplished it. Once you've gotten that specific person on your arm and you walk to the Christmas party next year with them on your arm, well, guess what? They're going to know. Or maybe once you've gone out a few times and then you have that discussion that you're more than friends or going out or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever. Well, now you can talk to people and be like, yeah, I've got a girlfriend. They don't need to know that for 9 months you've been doing all this imagining and all this great stuff. Your ego wants to talk about it. Your faith wants to show people. If no one knows what you were doing, then no one can really have an opinion, can they? And if no one doubts your sanity, well, then oftentimes there's no reason for us to question our sanity. We can happily go about our day and assume that things are happening and assume that things are working out for ourselves and assume that this thing that's happening right now that seems a little weird is for a reason. And we don't need our friends to throw in their 2 cents. They're not the ones that have the courage to learn about this concept in life where what you focus on is what you create. They don't have the courage to walk down this path and try it, but you do. And you're showing other people by your actions, not by what you say, but by your actions. Your faith in knowing that this result will come because of what I'm doing is what will demonstrate to the people that you want to talk to. It will demonstrate to them a truth and a reality. And a demonstrated truth and a demonstrated reality is far more powerful than one that's spoken about. When I tell my friend Joe, hey, Joe, this works every time I do it, and he goes, yeah, I don't know. I've read some stuff that says otherwise. Well, okay. Fair enough, Joe. I appreciate that. I'm going to do this anyway, and once I accomplish it, you and I will chat again, and then I'll show you, this is what I accomplished. And they'll be like, well, how'd you do that? And I'm like, well, hard work and effort and focus, and kept moving towards it, didn't take no for an answer, and I kept doing it. And guess what? Success was inevitable. Many people frequently talk about, and it's a fun parable, or fun story, I don't even know if it's a parable, but the faith of a mustard seed. The concept of it is this itty-bitty little mustard seed is going to become a mustard tree. Mustard seed doesn't know how or why or what. It just knows that that's what it's going to be. All of that is contained within that tiny little nugget of faith, of seed. All of that knowing that I am contained and perfect as I am, that I am heading in the direction that I am destined to do. I'm heading in the direction that I am here to be. I don't question it. I don't doubt it because I know it's true. I know I'm heading there. The faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. The faith that there is a way around any obstacles in your life can change anything. The faith of knowing that I can accomplish goals of my choosing is amazing, is powerful, is life-changing. Goddard's discussion about faith is something that all of us need to try to remember. If we're questioning everything, we're not really having faith. If something weird's happening right now, then use your faith to understand that this is just part of the process. This is something that's manifesting as part of this process. It may look bad, but bad things happen sometimes that create good outcomes. In fact, it happens a lot. Bad things happen sometimes that create good outcomes. One quick example. I got laid off from a job one time. Immediately started looking for another job, had a condo, and believe me, I was worried, I'm stressing. I don't want to lose my place. I only got enough money to last a little bit of time this way. How am I going to get this going? Well, all right, I need a job. And just started networking, started talking, found something, literally had an interview within 1 week. 3 weeks later, I was starting at a new company, in a new position, because of a little bit of coding stuff I did. And because of that job, it led to a bunch of coding successes, a bunch of coding experience, and basically led to where I'm currently at now. That bad experience of being laid off, I could have said, oh my God, my life's changing. But I was working on manifesting more money, more income, better job. That's what I was working on manifesting. So I'm manifesting more money, I'm manifesting getting a better job, then all of a sudden I lose my job. Well, a lot of people would go, oh, this is not working. I just lost my job. I was trying to manifest more money and I just lost my job. I didn't say that. I didn't see it that way. I said, wow, this is scary, but obviously the universe is helping me find my next place. And sometimes timing is everything. If I wouldn't have quit my job, that position that opened up would have likely have gotten filled by someone else. But it didn't. Got filled by me because I got laid off because I needed a job then and there. Timing was perfect. Sometimes stuff happens that looks bad, but having some faith will allow you to realize that it actually is good hiding in bad clothing. The difference is how we look at things. The difference is knowing that we're getting from here to where we're trying to go. Keep doing the effort. Keep doing the techniques. Keep feeling it until the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Keep assuming that everything's working out. And your success will be inevitable. Dan Radio Style.